Good morning world and all who inhabit it. My name's Noah Spongy, and following this video and the series finale of my LEGO SpongeBob series, I will be focusing full time on my brand new 2D animation channel, Noah's Blobs. Over time, you're going to see this channel become more and more defunct because I want to move away from SpongeBob content. If you know me, I've always been a big fan of SpongeBob. Maybe not as much now as I was, but I still love this world, these characters, and every awesome memory this show's brought me. But I've done way too much SpongeBob content over the past 6 years and I want to stop. But before I stop, I realized that people liked hearing my thoughts on SpongeBob, and I feel like with how my thoughts on the show as a whole have developed over time, I think it'd be fun to list my top 10 favorite episodes of SpongeBob. So here we go, a full analysis on one of my favorite cartoons, viewed through only its best episodes, in my opinion. Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna visit Mom. Number 10 is SpongeBob's Bad Habit. I talked about this episode in another now unlisted review, but I wanted to talk about it again right now because I'm still really interested in the way this episode explores its characters, most specifically Squidward and especially SpongeBob. The way Squidward's negativity and anxiety leaves such an imprint on SpongeBob just due to SpongeBob's great admiration for Squidward was something I wasn't expecting to be explored. It takes some kind of psychological interpretation on the show that was not really looked at before, and I respect the show for not just doing it at all, but doing it in a compelling way. Even if most of the episode was the usual SpongeBob fare with wacky gags related to SpongeBob biting his nails and all that stuff, I think it as a whole makes for a great experience that I'd recommend giving a look if you haven't already. Number 9 is Computer Overload. Fair warning for the rest of this list, I put a lot of episodes that are solely written and storyboarded by Aaron. Oh, and yeah, I should also add there's a lot of post-movie episodes. The thing that really grabs me about this episode is the dynamic between Plankton and Karen, and the content of their bickering, along with just every joke that comes from them failing to communicate and Plankton being completely arrogant about everything. It's all really simple, mundane things that I love about it, whether it's about Karen teasing Plankton for his height, Plankton getting proof that he needed a hairdryer by grabbing a picture of their wedding day, or a running gag of Plankton forgetting to blink. Something about how stupid their conversations are and how they take up a majority of the episode is something that really gets me. It's not a highly action-packed episode or anything truly memorable as a concept, but it's just got really clever dialogue that's fun to discover new pieces of after rewatching, as well as good comedic timing and great expressions, and I always find myself going back to it. Number 8 is Professor Squidward. This episode has always fascinated me in how strange yet brilliantly comedic it is. From the long sequence of Patrick shrinking really small to drive a train, Squilliam getting applause for not doing anything at all, SpongeBob's toned legs, just everything that happens in the classroom. Most of the humor comes from things that break all logic for very minimalist gags, and it doesn't seem like something that would work, but it is always the kind of thing that I love to... It always is the kind of thing I love from this show. And let me guess, it's Aaron Springer. This episode basically takes place inside of one room for the entire episode, but they somehow manage to get so much out of people just sitting around in a classroom. They make up for a kind of lame setup with weird moment after weird moment. Also, I enjoy random appearances of Squilliam, and this episode especially makes me have so many questions about what purpose to the world he has. Not in a negative way, I'm compelled by his character and his dynamic with Squidward and their history, but also what is he all about outside of being Squidward's enemy? This episode says he's a genius, but also shows us him not expressing any actual talents and getting praise for it. What amount of brilliance creates that kind of fanfare and gets someone like him to that high of a status? I get that his only purpose in the series is to make Squidward jealous and drive his character or whatever, but I think they could easily go further with exploring him and his origins to an extent. Either way, this episode is fantastically funny as an off-the-wall bottle episode. Number 7 is SpongeBob SquarePants versus the Big One. This is another episode that puts the characters in a new, dangerous setting, this time being a remote island surrounded by the deadliest wave known to fish kind. I absolutely love all the ideas presented in this, especially with SpongeBob and the gang learning how to surf the Big One, and the epic scale of all that arrives along with that. Johnny Depp's character is equally mysterious and goofy in his own way, as well as the other new characters that show up in this. They're amusing, at least. Additionally, I love the way that there's multiple different plots running throughout the special. It's something they rarely ever do in the show. Like, when you're feeling tired of the main group of characters, it goes to Sandy thriving on her island, and Mr. Krabs bickering with the Flying Dutchman. Though I wish Sandy's plot was developed a little bit more outside of the couple scenes we get. This whole episode is very atmospheric, very funny, has the right amount of intensity, especially with the final confrontation with the Big One, and is just overall a cool summer vibe. The lame ending with everyone partying and JKL coming back from the dead for no reason, that's one of the few things that sets it back just a tiny bit, but I think everything else makes up for it, and it's easy to ignore for how fun everything else is. Number 6 is Frozen Face Off. This episode I remember watching on its premiere probably exactly 10 years ago by this point, all the way back in 2011, and it was worth every bit of hype from the promos. This episode is a really refreshing change of pace for the show and its tone and character dynamics. All the characters in a vast, deadly landscape racing for a big cash prize, ultimately coming together to stop the bigger threats when they come to light, all the while facing different deadly challenges and treacherous landscapes and all that stuff. Plus stop motion sea mollusks, that's the natural thing. The amount of different moments where different characters' lives are put at risk, while not necessarily shocking or dramatic, show a darker and tenser side to the show that I don't see often. I wish the show experimented more with dropping all the characters in new locations and seeing what they do in them. It's always a lot of fun, though they especially nail it here with how everyone works together and they all interact with each other. It's rare that we even get any of the character dynamics displayed with this big group, like seeing them work with Karen or having Sandy talk with certain characters. It's really satisfying to see, and I was even satisfied when I first watched it. Some additional highlights are the great stop motion and the hilarious scenes with Plankton in the safe. Just an overall fantastic, jam-packed with different crazy cool things, just a very thrilling special. Number 5 is Drive-Thru. I adore this episode for just how well it flows as a narrative. I love watching this already bad idea by Mr. Krabs turn worse and worse with every desperate decision he makes to salvage this idea, while also trying to put in as little effort or funds into it as possible. The way it goes from little things like the size of the window, to the massive lines of cars, and the mayor coming to complain, it all naturally transitions into each other as the episode goes on, until the rapid pace ending, and it's all the way through hilariously executed. Plus all the little moments in between and seeing how certain characters react to the drive-thru, it completely enhances the experience. Be it with Squidward's dry remarks, Plankton's attempt to capitalize on the long lines, or Mr. Krabs' vague and neglectful excuses for his actions. This intense, gradual escalation is something that hasn't been perfected in SpongeBob before or since this episode. Number 4 is Fear of a Krabby Patty. You want classic episodes? This is kind of close to that. This episode is up here because it's just so hilarious, energetic, and creative, with some of the funniest and most quickly paced jokes of the entire series. Be it with simply setting up the plot, or SpongeBob going insane, or that entire classic therapy scene. Everything moves at a perfect fast pace that helps the jokes immensely. I also love how the character designs are so consistently loose and goofy, with every crazy expression perfectly capturing emotions without being too overbearing or intense. It's overall such a stylized, entertaining, and comedically flawless episode. Number 3 is SpongeBob's Last Stand. I feel like a lot of people don't really give this special much credit. Maybe it was overhyped at the time, or it was too preachy with its environmental message for some people, I'm not sure. But personally, I was shocked with how standout, hilarious, and fun this was from start to finish, as a story, as a comedic piece, just generally as a half-hour SpongeBob show. This special is exactly my type of humor. There's so many subtle things you pick up from the dialogue, and a lot of the moments in this episode where things just go completely brain dead, and it's just perfect. Aaron Springer episode. I really enjoyed its stupid self-aware moments like the long parade used to fill up runtime, the lack of voice actors for a lot of characters like Sandy, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. It leads to a lot of really dumb gags in their place, like especially the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy one.
Jokes like the cops arresting SpongeBob and Patrick, then afterwards a weird shot of them smiling and posing for photos while everyone throws flowers and cheers and celebrates with them.
That made me laugh my booty off, so just know that every part of this episode, from the dramatic moments to the funny moments to the memorable songs and the exciting climax, it all sticks with me hard, and I was laughing all the way through my watch through of it. Number 2 is Chocolate with Nuts. There we go, there's your classic episode. This one, I couldn't help but put on the list. It's such a perfect episode from start to finish. No other episode has produced this many iconic bits and memorable characters in such a short amount of time, and with such a simple concept too. I love all the bits about SpongeBob and Patrick lying in order to get their riches, Patrick messing up hard with a few of the customers, plus him buying 10 of this one guy's pictures and staring at all of them. It's all so weird, but totally great. Even after seeing this episode so much over my life, I still found myself laughing a lot at this episode and being happy with just how much they did in so little time. I don't have much else to say, all else has been said. It's just an easy top choice. Now before we get to number 1, here's some honorable mentions. At number 20 is Friend or Foe for introducing a fascinating twist about the two rival characters, Mr. Krabs and Plankton, that I wish was explored more than it was. At number 19 is Mermaid Man Begins for being a great look into the superhero's origins that packs in the most perfect end sequence in the show. At number 18 is Hello Bikini Bottom for the great songs, excellent character dynamics, and just generally a satisfying and heartfelt experience. At number 17 is Chum Bucket Supreme for being simply hilarious at every turn, showing us that Plankton and Patrick is a dynamic that needs to be used much more often. At number 16 is Earworm for how it adds an interesting concept to a really catchy song. At number 15 is No Free Rides for rapid-fire jokes and a fun exploration of Mrs. Puff's psyche. At number 14 is Dying for Pie for the tragic feeling that runs through the episode that gets you invested in Squidward as he has to deal with the guilt of potentially killing his neighbor. At number 13 is Greasy Buffoons for the exciting and hilariously stupid back and forth between two restaurants going to the extreme with shady practices. At number 12 is Pineapple Fever for doing something that I love, a rainy day bottle episode, and then just going completely insane with it. And finally, at number 11 is King Plankton for surprising me by being an all-out funny experience with its great sense of comedic timing, good character usage, and additionally some nice colors and visuals in the fish tank setting. Anyway, now that those are out of the way, it's time for the number 1 episode. My favorite SpongeBob of all the SpongeBobs. Prepare to be underwhelmed. Number 1 is Lost in Bikini.
You what?
Yeah, I understand if nobody understands this choice. It's technically not in any sense the best SpongeBob episode. The reason I put it as number 1 is more of like a personal story kind of thing than like the episode's quality, even though the episode's pretty good. But I think this was one of the most important episodes to me personally, and for the direction of this YouTube channel. From 2013 up to around early 2015 when the second movie came out, I was honestly getting kind of sick of SpongeBob. Mostly because the franchise at that point was kind of in a lull period, with it not premiering many new episodes. I was sick of getting nothing out of the show, and by December 2014, I had basically started a LEGO SpongeBob YouTube channel to tell stories out of my disappointment for the state of the show at that point. It wouldn't be until the middle of 2015, when the big announcement of new SpongeBob episodes came with Steven Hillenburg back on board, that I would begin to feel excited again. After so many years of on-model characters and a year of nothing from the show, suddenly looked so loose and stylized and just great overall, and the jokes were actually making me laugh again. It was an incredible high that I felt for that whole summer after the episode finally dropped. The actual episode itself is a great ride all the way through, even in its simplicity. Story-wise and writing-wise, it's great. All the characters have a lot of energy and life to them again after a couple seasons of them being kind of flat. But something that really grabs me about the episode is that it has some of the nicest and most detailed backgrounds and general visuals that I've seen on the show. The beautiful sunrise colors and the detail in every new location adds to what was already a very pretty and atmospheric episode. It was such a refreshing take on the series in almost every single way, and I felt that from when I first watched it to while I'm rewatching it today. Most of the episodes that came after it didn't really recapture that sort of style. Once this episode was out in July 2015, I felt truly excited to think about and talk about SpongeBob again, and make it my main source of content for YouTube for 6 years, and whether that was to my detriment or not, I genuinely don't know. What I do know is that my passion for SpongeBob helped me meet a lot of good friends, and it gave me an easy outlet to tell stories and practice my skills in multiple areas. And I will never neglect it for that. Lost in Bikini Bottom felt like a comeback for SpongeBob, and is the thing that pretty much revived the passion I had for the show. SpongeBob has been such a weird part of my life. I've spent the last 10 years of my life obsessing over the same cartoon from my childhood to near adulthood, buying every bit of merchandise I can, making a 6-year-long LEGO series from it. It was basically my identity. I can admit when an obsession becomes too much though, and I want to start branching out and trying to interpret other shows, and just making my own original ideas of course too, for the sake of my mental health. And for like, not being labeled as just like one interest and all that. Watching episodes like these kind of reminds me why I got into the show in the first place. SpongeBob SquarePants is not just a comedic show, it's a varied and malleable show. Its characters are so simple, but they also work perfectly with each other. The fact that literally anything can be done with these things, that they can bounce off of any situation and reflect any different person's sense of humor and just general perspective in different ways, it inspires me to no end. I'm glad I was able to stick with and invest myself into this character and this world for so long, even if at the same time I'm excited to move on. I'll never forget SpongeBob and how much this show changed my life for as long as I live. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey of making all this different type of SpongeBob content, be it Legos or reviews or what have you. There could easily be a chance of me posting something randomly here once in a blue moon because you know how I am, but I'm excited to move on move away from this channel and, you know, this whole identity of SpongeBob and all that stuff. I'm excited to move on and think of new ideas and practice my talents and ambitions with 2D animation, which is like the thing I want to do more. It's gonna be tough, and I might not always know what to do. But if you at all want to support me, my new channel Noah's Blobs is in the description. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya, bye!